G'day there guys, it's Markee and gang, back again with another episode of r/Am I the A-hole. Now if you love today's bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some more spicy, amazing content. Thank you. Posted by user, expecting but not this, titled, Am I the A-hole for rudely telling my husband I decide who is in the delivery room? So for context, I, 28 female, am currently pregnant with my partner, 31 male, and am a first-time mum. My hospital recently changed their policy and are now allowing 2 support people in the delivery room. My mother-in-law made comments early on that she wanted to be there for the birth, and this woman is not subtle. At the time, I felt protected by CVD protocols, but set that expectation straight. I explicitly stated that any time I give birth, it will be a private medical experience that only includes my husband and medical team. I thought that it was clear it wasn't a debate because it's my body and I have the autonomy to decide who sees it in any context. Additionally, I do not have a good relationship with my mother-in-law. She just recently started initiating positive interactions after years of me trying. And it's absolutely because she's an "it's my grandbaby" kind of person. Recently, my husband told me we needed to have a discussion. He starts off by saying he mentioned the support person protocol change to his mother. I tried not to react, but I immediately blurted out, asking him why he would do that. He goes on to say he knows his mother really wants to be in the room to see the baby's first breath. I replied logically, if your mum sees their first breath, she will also see me pushing and will be looking down at my vagina. I actually had to explain why I refused to give birth in front of his mother. I then told him that there are only 2 priorities in the delivery room and neither of them are his or her feelings. The discussion continued back and forth. Finally, I started crying. I told him that labor and birth will be the most painful and vulnerable experience of my life, and that I need him to protect me. I told him that anyone who refuses to protect their pregnant partner failed them and is just dead weight in the delivery room. My husband told me that I'm rude, other negative things too, left our apartment, and when he came back, he wasn't speaking to me. This is where I think I could be the a-hole. I told him giving me this silent treatment, because I won't let his mother spectate as my most intimate area rips open, was very immature and made me worry if he has the emotional intelligence to support me in the delivery room. I think my husband took the hint, but I didn't explicitly say that I can decide that he won't be allowed in there either. I will say that I would be devastated if I had to do that and never thought this would ever be a problem during my pregnancy. So, am I the a-hole? Info: I did cuss when talking about effing ripping, but that was it. I also wasn't yelling, but I was sobbing loudly enough during it that my neighbor next door knocked to check on me after he left. And edit for added info: I saw some questions. Sorry about not including this originally. I'm a mess currently. I have a mother and 2 sisters, both mums, who I love endlessly. But I didn't ask any of them to be in the delivery room because I only want my husband there. Also, I did not yell at my husband at any point during this interaction. I was sobbing. I didn't lose my cool. In fact, my husband screaming was why my neighbor in the apartment next door heard and came and knocked after he left. She told me when I answered the door, I move slower these days, that she was so glad I answered because she was considering calling the police, or 911. Not sure if those numbers are allowed here, just in case. Edited again, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, everyone. I'm sorry I'm trying to answer all the messages, and thank you endlessly to all the people who shared their personal birth stories with me and offered advice and information. There are some wonderful strangers out there. I see comments worried about my safety. I promise I am safe and will try to provide an update if needed. One update I can predict now: my mother-in-law will not be in my delivery room. I don't think you're an a-hole for that interaction with your husband, and telling him he won't be in the delivery room either if he continues to pressure you for his mother also being in there. That doesn't sound very family friendly to me, and it sounds like he's very much a kiss ass for his mother. It's pretty obvious he cares more about her feelings in this situation than yours. So if that's the case, then you gotta make it clear that you won't be bulldozed by either of them. They can't get what they want from you because it's not what you want. Simple as that. If it takes colourful language and imagery to get the point across, then so be it. How dare he go behind your back and tell his mum about the change in rules when he knows goddamn well you're not going to take that news kindly. Like, that's so incredibly toxic and boneheaded of him to do that. I don't think I'd be able to contain my anger either if I were you. Your husband deserves everything you threw at him and then some in this argument. If he doesn't change his perspective on this, then of course don't let him be there for the birth of his child. You look after yourself, and you're not the a-hole here. Now in the comments, Jammy913 says, "Not the a-hole. Your husband pulled a moronic move going behind your back to let mother-in-law know she might be able to be in there. That, my dear, is fully 100% up to you. In fact, I think you need to let the staff know that under no circumstances is she allowed in the room. Give them a close-up mugshot of her. Not the a-hole. This is insane. Hold your ground, OP. And ask your husband how he'd feel if your dad chaperoned to a future vasectomy. You know, to provide support and coach him through it. Some people need analogies. His vasectomy, partly without pain meds, and it lasts approximately 18 hours, because that's what labor is. Not the a-hole. What is it with all the mother-in-laws in the world suddenly deciding they need to see the birth of their grandchildren? No mother-in-law I've ever met thought they deserved to be in the delivery room. It's completely up to you who is in the room, but beware, she might try to sneak in. Make sure the hospital staff knows it's just you and your husband. Maybe have him watch a video of a live birth so he understands how absolutely vulnerable you will be in that moment." And OP replies, "Thank you for this suggestion, because I was thinking of this, but was worried that I was being over the top. I told him I wanted him to watch a human birth when he brought this up. Now it's required, because honestly, I don't want him in the room if he's so ignorant and uneducated on the process, because then he really will just be dead weight and probably will cause me and the baby stress." So what do you guys think about this one? I feel like the not the a-hole judgment is pretty set in stone, but I'd like to see what you guys think in the comments. Now, our next post is by user Forsaken Succotash, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not covering my scars despite knowing how they affect my stepsister?" So I, 17 male, have a large burn scar on my arm and shoulder. It covers my whole upper arm and shoulder and some of my lower arm. It was from an accident a few years ago. The past few days have been really hot where I live, so I've either been wearing short sleeves or I've been rolling up my sleeves. And today, my stepsister, 20 female, came to visit our dad. I walked into the kitchen wearing shorts and a hoodie with the sleeves rolled up. When my sister was younger, and she was living with her mom, the house next to hers caught on fire. The houses were attached and their house also caught on fire, but they got out and were fine. But still, it was a very traumatic experience for her. She can't go near fire or she'll freak out. Understandably so. She saw my scars and told me to roll my sleeves down. I told her no. She told me that I know about her history with fire and that I should be more considerate. I told her that she should be more considerate, considering it's my effing body. She called me a dick for using the whole my body, my rules thing, and that she just asked me to roll my sleeves down. I grabbed a drink from the fridge and went back upstairs. Thinking on it, I kind of feel like the a-hole. I know how fire and fire-related things affect her, and rolling my sleeves down wouldn't have been that hard. So, am I the a-hole? And edits, I've had a few people come into my DMs asking about my accident. I know you guys mean well and just want all the info, but it's something that is really hard for me to talk about, so I would appreciate it if you could not ask me those kinds of questions. This is a hard toss-up because it's always good to be considerate of those with trauma, and trying your best not to trigger those traumatic experiences is the way to go. But asking OP to cover her scars is a bit of a grey area here in all honesty. But I would have to say that she has no right to ask or demand OP cover their burn scars on their body. Like, getting up you for the my body, my rules, being a dick for saying that is just so backwards. I'm doing a 360 and walking away. No, you can't just tell me to respect your body, dude. You're such an asshole. What's wrong with you? Like, that pretty much leads me to thinking OP is not the a-hole in this scenario. Just a really weird thing to say to OP and say they're a dick for defending their choice of clothes. I don't get it. So that's it. I'm going not the a-hole for this one. Now in the comments, Macaroni Rascal 42 says, "Not the a-hole. You are completely correct. Your body, your rules. She's asking you to be uncomfortable for the sake of her comfort, which is not okay." Hopping on to add that while having triggers and being triggered due to traumatic events is understandable and does not make her the a-hole, part of coping and understanding those triggers is to know and manage them. Not actively doing so is the issue here, and asking you to cover up or go away is not managing anything. Not the a-hole. Exactly. OP is not really in the wrong here. You don't need to adjust the whole world to your liking to get over a traumatic experience. There are much better ways to do so. The point of IDing triggers is to better understand your trauma and let people avoid triggers if they need to. But that should never extend to other people's bodies. The absolute most you should ever ask of someone is for a reasonable accommodation. Otherwise, it's on you to take yourself out of, or avoid, situations which you know you cannot handle. Asking someone to cover their body more than what is conventionally acceptable in a swimming pool in their own home is unreasonable. Slight clarification, I used swimming pool level of acceptability, but I should have said more than otherwise would be appropriate for the situation. Don't be the a-hole in a swimsuit at a fancy dinner party, kids. Sadly puts away snorkel and flippers. Not the a-hole. She's traumatized over a near miss, but has no consideration for someone who wasn't that fortunate? Time for Miss Thing to grow up. Although I agree with your verdict, OP's sister can be traumatized over being in a fire. I was in a really bad fire a few years ago, and I ended up going to therapy to address my night terrors and panic attacks triggered by sirens, smoke, etc. She doesn't need scars to prove she was traumatized. However, she is the a-hole because she isn't learning to cope or seeking coping mechanisms to deal with her triggers. Knowing your triggers is important, but she can't control everything or everyone. She needs to learn to manage herself. Edit with the verdict, not the a-hole. It's your damn body. You've also been scarred literally by fire. You should not be made to feel ashamed of it. I was just about to say this. She may have seen fire, but it's actually touched and hurt him. Her trauma of witnessing a house burn down is nowhere near the same. What if he asked her to stop coming over or cover her face because her fire story reminds him of what happened to him? It would be viewed as a ridiculous statement. She should seek help for the issues of open flames, but that doesn't mean OP's discomfort is less important than hers. OP doesn't have to feel ashamed nor discomforted by his body. Our next post is by user Am I the A-hole Throw 34909, titled, Am I the a-hole for showing my daughter the text her fiancé sent me? So I'm a widower with two 23-year-old biological daughter, 17-year-old stepson Adam, kids, and my late wife passed away 2 years ago, leaving me to care for Adam, disabled, wheelchair-bound, and his sister loves him. She always visits and checks in on him, but her fiancé Mike and I do not get along because of how he behaves around us. Unlike us, Mike comes from a prosperous family, and they always tend to show off what they have. Mike treats my daughter very well, but acts as if me and my family were less than. He doesn't eat nor drink anything at my house. He and his mom make comments about our living space and constantly brag about what his family has. My daughter was visiting and said she wanted me and her brother to be at the wedding to share her day. The day I received the invitation, Mike called and expressed how he and his family weren't thinking Adam's presence at his sister's wedding was necessary. He went on about his family's upper-class guests and how Adam's presence would feel out of place, and suggested I come alone. I told him my daughter said she wanted Adam there, but he kept coming up with suggestions till we started arguing. I checked with my daughter to clear any misunderstanding. Mike then said Adam could come. I then got a text from him talking about how it's his wedding, so I needed to stop sticking my nose where it doesn't belong. He mentioned my son isn't technically family anyway, so it wouldn't matter if he's uninvited, claiming I was trying to be mean on purpose to make it hard because I don't like him. He finished by saying that this is my fair warning, and that if I chose to make my son's presence at the wedding my hill to die on, then I just signed away any rights to any future grandchildren he and my daughter will have. That was it. He kept calling, but I blocked him. I invited my daughter to my home to tell her I won't attend if my son won't. She asked what happened. I showed her the text Mike sent me. She was shocked, she said nothing, and just took a picture of it and left. My sister came the next day saying the wedding was off after a huge argument between Mike and my daughter because of me. They argued that I created this problem when I showed my daughter the text, and I could have respected the groom's rules since it's his wedding, but I was being controlling for not wanting my daughter to be happy. They went on about Mike being high class, a man with a salary, his own car, and a house. More relatives were saying that they would have had someone watch Adam if this was the issue, but it wasn't. They claimed it was then because of my resentment towards Mike. Mike just sounds like an all-round terrible person, and I can't blame you for standing up for Adam. Adam absolutely deserves to be at that wedding. Who the hell is Mike to say he's not allowed to be there when he's trying to keep that away from your daughter? If this is the wake-up call that Mike needs, or particularly your daughter needs, that, Mike isn't such a good person, then so be it. I think it's better that they call off the wedding and deal with this issue, rather than committing to a wedding, enabling this harassment and discrimination against Adam, and letting it fester into the future. No one's going to be happy there. So, I'm with you on this one, OP. You did the right thing by showing her that, and obviously, she was just as disgusted as you'd expect her to be. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Bad B Crow says, not the a-hole. You saved your daughter from getting married to an ableist bigot. It was much better for her to find out what he's really like now than after they're bound together by legal paperwork. Holy cow, this. Imagine how she would feel if she didn't find out until after marriage, or worse, after kids. She cares about her brother, and her fiancé showed his true colors. Better to find out before it becomes more complicated to leave. God, what if they ended up having a kid with a disability? Bullet fully dodged there. Or if he taught their kids ableism despite her influence, and they treated her brother and other disabled people terribly. I know a few people who have misogynists for sons due to their child's father, despite their best efforts to raise compassionate children. Yup, you really do not want to raise children with a bigot. Mixing bigots with tolerant people is, unfortunately, like mixing one tiny red sock in a load of whites. It's so tiny because it's a toddler sock, and it was hidden under everything else that you missed it. But you definitely see it now, when everything you pull out is pink. Mixing colors is beautiful, mixing cultures is beautiful, mixing families is beautiful, but mixing ableists is not. Not the a-hole. Oh, hell no. Do not let your daughter marry that prick. But if OP prevented daughter from marrying Mike, he would be just as bad as Mike. Hopefully, she stays true to her word now that she's realized what a scummy, controlling snob he is. Obviously, he can't actually stop her, if that's what she wants. It's the 21st century. My point was that he's a horrible man. And not the a-hole. The wedding is not off because of you, it's off because of Mike's snobbishness and ableism. You know the old thing about how you can tell a person's true self by their treatment of waitstaff and cashiers? It applies equally well here. Your daughter deserved to know what her fiancé was saying. She might not be happy right now, but your daughter dodged a bullet and you're the one who yelled at her to duck. And our next post is by user FunC8083, titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my daughter the basement suite after I renovated it only because she refused to give up her room upstairs? So I've been remarried for 2 years now, and we recently had a son. I also have a 14-year-old daughter from my first marriage and a 12 and 9-year-old stepsons. When my wife was 5 months pregnant, I asked my daughter if she could swap rooms with my stepsons. We had only 4 bedrooms at the time, and my daughter had the largest room. Our plan was for my daughter to take the second largest room, my stepsons to share the larger room, and convert the smallest room into a nursery. I thought this was a fairly reasonable ask, but my daughter made it into a huge fight. And worse was when my ex got involved, who then threatened to take me to court to reduce my custody of my daughter all over a room. This caused way too much stress at home, and I gave in, which I do regret now. But I then proceeded to renovate the basement suite. With my father's help, the basement now had the largest bedroom with a lounge and a full bathroom. It's very easily the nicest part of the house. The kids then started fighting over who would move down there, and I very firmly told my daughter that I renovated it because she refused to give up her room. So my 12-year-old stepson gets to move down there. I don't know if it's just puberty, but my daughter has become extremely hostile and downright mean over this. She no longer comes over as much as before, citing the unfair room as the reason. My ex fully supports her, and I have to wait 5 months before I can even fight this in court. At this point, I'm not even sure if it's worth the legal cost because she'll be 15 in December, and her opinion will count in the court. Am I the a-hole for not giving in to my daughter's, frankly, bratty demands? It's killing me that my daughter feels like I'm pushing her out of the family, but I want to stay true to what I think is right. All attempts to get us in family therapy has been denied by my ex, and my poor father now feels terrible because he's being partly blamed since he helped with the renovations. I can't really answer this one. I really feel like I would need to live this situation to understand the ins and outs of it. I'm inclined to say not the a-hole for this one because it seems like this is parental alienation by the ex, but I really just don't know. I'm not there. So I'm not really going to give a judgment on this one. Now in the comments, The Final Frontier says, I don't think you're an a-hole, but you haven't handled this well. Your daughter is in that awkward teen phase, and if the initial room was always hers, assuming your wife and stepsons moved into your house, then I can totally see her feeling displaced in favor of the new family and the new baby. I think it depends on how you asked her and explained the situation. She now sees a nice fancy room downstairs, and her stepbrothers get it, and she feels further punished. Not saying she's right and she's definitely acting bratty and entitled, but you might want to examine why your daughter feels so displaced when she visits and lives with you. Not the a-hole for this situation specifically. But she literally got what she wanted though. They had to go to a different course because she wasn't going to agree. So she kept what she wanted originally. She has no reason to feel punished or displaced. She's being enabled by her abusive mom. I've actively watched my sister go through some horrible custody crap, taking abuse from her son because her ex is brainwashing him to hate her and she has to play nice for court purposes. She just moved to another state for a job opportunity and has a year to show that it's a good place for her son to be as well, / that she can support him there, and his dad is already turning it around that the courts are deeming her unfit to be a mum 100% instead of realizing that she was his main provider for 13 years. When it comes to manipulative exes and courts, there's no good way to handle this crap. I think OP did everything they were supposed to do, to the point where he didn't force his daughter to move when she didn't want to. Daughter is being brainwashed by the mum, plain and simple. Edit? Parental alienation is what I'm looking for. 100% not the a-hole. But the daughter didn't even know that they would renovate the basement. She thought she would have to trade in her space for a crappier one. OP should have at least offered her the basement. Why would they offer her the biggest bedroom when she already had the biggest bedroom before? That makes zero sense. They renovated because she refused to give up her space. They did it for the other kids because she wasn't having it. She got her cake. She doesn't get to eat someone else's because it's bigger than hers. Think about it from her perspective. She already feels left out and like she's being replaced. Then Dad decides he wants to take her room, where her memories are, and give it to someone else, thus making her feel even more replaceable. So, she fights for what is hers, but then she sees them giving something bigger and better to the people replacing her. I'm not saying it's right, but that's how this kid is feeling. Plus, I highly doubt the OP offered to finish the basement for her as a compromise. Not the a-hole. If there is one here, it's your ex. Your request of your daughter was reasonable given the dynamics of the children in the household. At 14, she's old enough to understand this, but it sounds like there are other things at play that are influencing her behavior. The divorce, your ex poisoning the well, trying to blend families, and her feeling pushed out, that make me empathetic towards her. I kind of think you're the a-hole. You got remarried, you moved other children into your house, and then you wanted your daughter to give up her only space in the house, where she must have felt like an outsider, to move into a smaller room. And now you've given the newer room with its own bathroom to one of your stepchildren. Having her own bathroom, and not having to share with boys who she's not related to, would be a big thing for her. I honestly haven't seen anywhere in your post where you put your own child first. It was always what's best for you, or what's best for your stepchildren. When do you care what's best for her? I'm surprised how long it took to find this verdict. Most of these verdicts seem to assume that he did a good job of integrating the family and making sure his daughter still felt loved and valued, rather than replaced by a new family and helping her to feel comfortable suddenly living with two unrelated male children. I don't see anything here to indicate he did that. The only example we have to go on is this instance, and it was handled poorly by him. He wanted her to make a change to accommodate his family without talking to her about her concerns and how she feels about it. Since his post didn't include anything about how she felt, I assume he never asked. Instead of being the adult and finding out more about why she didn't want to change rooms so that he could assure her and/or compromise, he created something nice for someone in the new family and said she couldn't have it because she wasn't willing to give up her things for his new baby. And he built a room, which he must have had the means to do all along, instead of having her take a smaller room to accommodate his new baby. Everything he did here seemed like her feelings don't matter. She's just treated by her parent as a brat who won't do what's easiest for the adults. If this is an example of how he's been integrating the family, it's no wonder she wants out of there. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Friendly reminder that I'm now posting daily on my second channel, Markee 2. If you want to laugh at memes with me, link is down in the description below. On phone, you just click that little arrow underneath the video. I also want to say thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your names are currently floating down the screen here, and I love to see all of you guys. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you see yourself on screen, I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back for being amazing as always, and thank you for supporting me again. I do hope that you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever it is you're up to. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.